She was driving through a quiet stretch of land, where trees stood thick and tall, and the road felt forgotten by time. The sun was low, and light moved slowly through branches, making long shadows across the path she had taken this route to save time. Thinking it would be peaceful and empty instead, she felt something heavy in the air, like the land was holding its breath. She slowed the vehicle when she noticed something strange near the edge of the road. There were broken leaves pressed into the dirt and marks that did not belong to animals. She knew, she told herself. It was nothing, yet her hand stayed tight on the wheel. She had always trusted her sense when something felt wrong. That feeling returned stronger when she heard a sound that did not belong to the forest. It was soft and weak, like a cry trying not to be heard. She stopped the vehicle and listened. At first there was only wind moving through leaves. Then the sound came again, clearer. This time her heart began to beat fast. Stepped out and followed the sound, slowly calling out to let anyone know she was there. The ground was uneven, and roots pushed up through the soil. She nearly slipped more than once, but kept going. Behind a group of thick bushes she saw a small shape. On the ground it was a boy, curled in on himself, covered in dirt and scratches. His eyes were open, but filled with fear and pain. He tried to move, but failed, and a quiet sound escaped his throat. She knelt beside him, keeping her voice low and calm. She told him he was safe now, even though she was not sure how true that was. The boy did not understand her words, but he felt the tone. Reached out with shaking fingers and held onto her sleeve. She saw blood on his leg and marks on his arms, like he had fallen hard or been dragged. She checked around quickly, afraid something dangerous might still be near. The forest stayed silent. She knew she could not leave him. Their lifting him was difficult because he was weak, and shaken she wrapped her jacket around him and supported his weight as best she could. Every step back toward the road felt longer than before. Her arms burned, and her breath came fast, but she did not stop. When she reached the vehicle, she laid him carefully in the back seat. She gave him water and watched him drink slowly, like he had not tasted it in days. His eyes never left her face. She wanted to take him straight to help, but the road ahead was long, and night was coming. Her phone had no signal, and the engine light flickered. On the dashboard, she realized she might be stuck here longer than planned. She turned the vehicle around and drove until the path ended near an old clearing. There was no house, no lights, no sound of people, only trees and sky and the sound of insects. Waking for the night, she used what she had: blankets, water, and simple food. She cleaned his wounds gently and tied them as best she could. Boy watched her closely, learning every move. When she finished, he relaxed a little and leaned against her arms. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her chest. She did not know where he came from or who was searching for him. She only knew that leaving him was not an option. As darkness spread, the forest changed. Sounds grew louder, closer. She built a small fire at a safe distance using dry wood. The light pushed back the shadows, just enough. She stayed awake, watching, listening. The boy slept in short moments, waking whenever a sound grew near. She held his hand to calm him. Time moved slowly, and fear tried to creep into her thoughts, yet there was also a strange calm, like the land was watching, testing her. She wondered how the boy ended up alone in such a dangerous place. His clothes were worn but not poor. There were symbols woven into the fabric that she did not recognize. They looked meaningful, like they belonged to a story older than the road she traveled. She thought about the people who might be looking for him: parents, elders, a whole community perhaps. She hoped they were close. The night air grew cold, and she wrapped both of them tighter. She promised herself she would protect him until morning, no matter what came in. The quiet moments before dawn, she felt something shift inside her. This was no longer just a rescue, it was a turning point. Neither of them knew it yet, but this moment in the forest would echo far beyond the trees. When the first light touched the sky, she knew they had survived the night. Boy opened his eyes and looked at her with trust instead of fear. She smiled softly, knowing the hardest part was still ahead, and somewhere unseen others were already moving toward them. The morning air was cool and fresh, and the forest seemed less threatening with light moving through the trees. The boy stirred and blinked slowly at the brightness. He looked around, confused, but did not cry. She offered him water, and he drank carefully. She could see his body still weak, and every movement caused a wince. They sat together on a fallen log while the boy held onto her hand. Sun slowly climbed, and the sounds of birds filled the forest. She knew she needed to move him to a safer place, but had no clear path in mind. Her mind raced, thinking about the nearest village and what kind of help she could find. The boy had no words, yet his eyes followed her every move as if asking silently for guidance. She wrapped him again in her jacket and helped him to his feet. Step was slow and painful. Roots and uneven ground made walking difficult, but she encouraged him with soft words. They moved toward a stream she remembered from a map in her mind. The water was clear and flowing fast. She led him down to the bank and helped him drink and wash dirt from his hands and face. He shivered, but seemed commerged, collected small stones, and marked the path so they would not get lost. The forest was alive with movement. Birds flew from branches and squirrels ran along tree trunks. She kept her senses sharp, listening for sounds that did not belong. Hours passed, and the boy's body grew stronger, but exhaustion stayed in his eyes. She gathered fallen branches and built a small shelter using leaves and vines. Boy watched carefully, learning how she did it. She explained without words, pointing, showing. Using gestures, his hands moved slowly, copying her movements. Though sun dipped low again, and the forest grew dim, she lit a small fire, carefully keeping it. Controlled smoke rose softly into the trees. They shared a small meal she carried with her. It was simple, but enough to give energy. The boy ate, quietly looking around. At one point, he pointed to his chest, and then to her. She nodded, understanding that he felt safe. Night came, and the forest changed again. Sounds became louder, unfamiliar noises around them. She stayed close to the boy, holding him and whispering soft words. The boy clutched her arm and stayed awake for a while. They watched the fire and listened to the forest. Breathing sleep came in short moments. She dreamed about his family and wondered if they were searching for him. She imagined the boy running through trees, calling for help, no one coming. The thought made her stomach twist. She promised herself she would not fail him. When dawn arrived, she guided him back to the stream. She showed him how to drink and wash. His face began to show faint color again. They rested on the bank, letting sunlight touch their skin. She noticed small animals watching from the distance. Boy laughed quietly when a squirrel ran across a branch. It was the first sound of joy she had heard from him. She realized then that survival was not only about food and water, it was about giving hope. She spoke softly to him, telling stories of the forest, of animals, of paths they might take. The boy listened carefully, absorbing each word. She watched him learn, adapt, and gain strength. They started walking again, toward a hill she remembered from a map in her mind. The climb was steep. Her arms supported him as they moved carefully up the slope. Each step they took was a victory. By the time they reached the top, the boy could walk more steadily with less help. They could see a clearing below. The forest seemed less dense. There she felt a surge of hope, perhaps help, or people could be near. She guided him down carefully, slowing whenever the boy grew tired. Found soft grass and rested again. She pointed to the horizon, showing that they were moving forward. She kept a careful eye on every movement in the trees. She felt a strange connection to the boy. It was more than just saving him. It was a bond that grew with each shared struggle, each silent communication. Hours passed slowly. Sunlight waned, and she built another small fire using dry leaves and sticks. The boy helped, placing small branches carefully around it. They shared another small meal. The boy's laughter came again when a bird landed near them. It was a light sound that made her heart lift. They slept again, holding close for warmth throughout the night. She stayed awake, listening to the forest, ready for anything. She felt tired but alert. She knew the hardest challenges were not over. Morning came, and they rose together. Feeling stronger, she saw determination in his eyes. They walked toward a stream of running water that cut through the forest. She taught him how to use the water to wash and drink. They filled small containers with water for later. The boy began helping more, carrying light items, mimicking gestures. She smiled quietly, realizing he was learning. The day grew hotter, and the forest changed. Birds and insects filled the air. They followed the stream for hours. She explained paths using gestures and pointed landmarks. Boy remembered and pointed back. Showing he understood, they found a small area where wild berries grew. She picked some and offered them carefully. He tried eating. Learning how to handle them without choking, she laughed quietly when he smiled. A real smile. It was the first day she felt they could survive together. They moved slowly toward a small hill where the trees thinned. Boy could now walk on his own. He ran a little ahead and then ran back to her. Making soft sounds, she realized that the boy was regaining not just strength but trust. They settled near the hilltop, watching the forest spread below. The boy sat quietly drawing shapes in the dirt. She sat beside him. Her hand on his shoulder. The forest seemed less threatening now. Almost peaceful. They were tired but alive together. Connected by a journey that had begun unexpectedly, the boy slept again as she stayed awake, keeping watch. Thinking about what the next day might bring, she felt hope for the first time since finding him. Hope that the world beyond the forest could be reached the next day. The forest felt different, though. Air was still, and sunlight passed through the branches in warm streaks. The boy woke slowly and looked around with alert eyes. He'd grown stronger overnight, and his movements were steadier. She offered him water, and he drank quickly. She watched him carefully, noticing every sign of energy returning. They packed small items and moved toward a faint trail she remembered from the day before. The path was uneven and covered with roots and stones. She held the boy's hand when necessary, guiding him gently. It passed through thick clusters of trees and open spaces where sunlight touched the ground. Bird song and the rustle of small animals filled the air. She felt a strange peace amidst the danger. The boy began mimicking simple gestures, pointing to landmarks and repeating her movements. It gave her hope that he was learning and remembering. As they walked, she watched the forest around them closely. Every shadow could hide danger. Every sound could be a warning. They stopped near a shallow stream to drink and rest. The boy laughed quietly when a small fish swam near his fingers. It was the first real laughter since she found him. She felt warmth spread in her chest, knowing he was beginning to feel safe. After the break, they continued following the stream, which led them to a small clearing. The clearing was open and offered space to rest and plan. She let the boy sit while she examined the area. It's quiet except for the sound of the water moving over stones. She gathered some dry leaves and made a small fire to keep them warm and to cook a simple meal. The boy watched intently and helped where he could. He moved carefully, picking up small twigs and arranging them near the fire. She taught him how to handle the small tasks safely. They shared a small meal together. The boy tried to eat slowly, following her guidance. He began to smile more as the day passed. The forest seemed less threatening, and the boy's trust in her grew. They decided to move toward higher ground, where she hoped to find a clearer view of the area. The climb was slow and tiring. She supported him when the slope grew steep. Every step tested their endurance, but they moved together. The boy pointed to the horizon, showing curiosity and awareness. She nodded, understanding that he was learning to observe and think about their surroundings. They reached a small, low top and rested. From there, they could see a wider stretch of forest. She scanned the area, hoping to spot a trail or signs of other people. The boy explored nearby rocks and small trees, showing excitement and confidence. It was a relief to see him move with purpose instead of fear. As evening approached, the forest changed again. Sounds became more distinct and shadows longer. Shade built another small fire and helped the boy settle nearby. Ate a small portion of their remaining food and drank water. They watched the stars begin to appear above the trees. The boy pointed to the sky, asking silently about the patterns. She explained using gestures and showing him shapes and directions. He listened carefully, eyes wide, learning without words. Night came fully, and the forest was quiet, except for occasional animal sounds. The boy slept while she stayed awake, alert to any movement. She thought about what lay ahead, how to reach help, whether the boy's people were searching for him. Morning arrived with soft light filtering through the trees. The boy awoke and moved more easily than the day before. She guided him toward a faint trail that might lead to signs of civilization. They walked slowly, taking breaks by streams and shaded areas. She noticed subtle changes in his posture, less fear, more strength. It gave her courage to continue despite exhaustion. By midday, they reached a river larger than any they had seen. The current was fast, but shallow at some points. She showed the boy how to cross carefully. They used stones and branches as stepping points. Holding hands and moving slowly, he followed her guidance carefully. Trusting her completely on the other side, they found a small area with clear land and fewer trees. It was a good spot to rest and look for any signs of people. They spent time drinking, eating, and watching the forest around them. The boy smiled and laughed when small birds came near. She realized that joy was returning to him. A sign of hope and recovery, they made a small camp for the night, fire burning softly, and the boy slept. Close for warmth, she reflected on how much they had traveled together. How they had survived despite uncertainty. She felt a deep connection forming. A bond created by shared struggle. Morning came and the boy woke strong. They prepared to continue their journey toward what she hoped would be safety. The forest stretched before them, alive with sounds, smells, and the promise of what lay ahead. Every step strengthened the boy and their trust in each other. She knew that soon the next challenge would come. But for now, they moved forward, together, ready to face what the forest held. The morning sun filtered through the trees in the forest, felt alive in a different way. Birds called and the air smelled fresh. Boy moved beside her confidently. Now his steps were steady, and he no longer relied on her support as much. They followed a faint trail that led them through a mixture of thick trees and open space. Ishi scanned the area constantly, listening and observing. Something felt different today. Tension in the air. A feeling that they were not alone, but it was not threatening. They stopped near a stream to rest. The boy drank water and collected small stones, playing quietly while she kept watch. She felt that eyes might be watching them from a distance. She thought about the possibility that someone was searching for her. Mars passed and they moved carefully toward a ridge. From the top, they could see the forest spread out with rivers and hills. She pointed to landmarks, showing the boy the direction they should take. He nodded and followed her gestures with understanding. As the sun climbed higher, movement caught her attention. Figures appeared at the edge of the clearing. They were dressed in clothes that looked different, decorated with patterns and colors she had never seen before. Her heart began to race. The boy stopped and stared. They did not run or hide. The figures approached slowly with calm energy. One stepped forward and made gentle gestures. Realized they were trying to communicate. The boy looked at her for guidance. She nodded slightly, telling him to stay calm. The figures smiled softly and moved closer. She saw no weapons, only expressions of concern and caution. The boy reached out, and one of the figures bent down to meet him. They touched his shoulder lightly and spoke in words she did not understand. He listened carefully, eyes wide with recognition. A sense of relief spread across his face. He spoke softly and the figure responded. They spoke for a long time using gestures and voices. She stayed beside him quietly, giving space. The figures looked at her and made gestures she could understand as thanks. She realized they were his people, his tribes. The boy ran to them with joy, showing a happiness she had not seen before. They embraced him, and the relief was visible in every movement. They turned to her and showed gratitude in gestures and looks. She felt a mix of relief and wonder. The tribe invited her to follow them. They led her through the forest carefully, pointing out landmarks and using signs to explain. The boy stayed close, sometimes holding her hand briefly. They walked together until they reached a village hidden within the trees. It was simple but organized, filled with people who watched them with curiosity and care. The boy ran to his family and elders. They embraced him and spoke rapidly, words flowing that she did not understand, yet the emotion was clear. She watched tears in eyes, relief and joy. The boy returned to her and held her hand. He gestured for her to come forward. The elders approached and made gestures of honor and thanks. They showed her symbols of respect and offered food and water. She felt overwhelmed, but accepted humbly. The boy explained to them in gestures and simple words that she had saved him. They nodded and listened, their eyes filled with gratitude. She spent time learning about their ways. The tribe welcomed her, showing her their homes and customs. The boy stayed by her side but moved freely among his people. She realized the bond they shared had not broken despite the time apart. Days passed, and she observed their daily life. She learned small tasks and watched the boy interact with his family. He introduced her to elders with gestures and soft smiles. She felt a sense of peace she had not known in weeks. She saw that the tribe valued her courage and kindness. They gave her symbols and small tokens, simple items that represented honor in their culture. She accepted with gratitude. Understanding the depth of meaning behind them, the boy continued to speak through gestures and eyes. He expressed gratitude in ways beyond words, showing her that he understood her actions had saved him. She realized that the forest journey had not only connected them, but also connected her to the boy's people. She spent time learning from them. Observing their respect for the land and each other, she felt a sense of belonging. Though she knew she would eventually return to her world, the boy stayed close. Teaching her small lessons and guiding her through the village, she felt a warmth in her heart. Knowing her actions had changed lives as the sun set, the tribe gathered around a small fire. They shared food and stories. Showing her the importance of community and trust, the boy held her hand. A silent thank you for the courage and care she had shown. Night fell, and she stayed awake a while longer. Reflecting on the journey from the forest to this hidden village, they had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, yet their connection and the boy's life had been saved. She felt hope for the future and understood that one act of kindness could echo far beyond the moment it was given. She watched the stars above, thinking about the boy, his tribe, and the bond they had created together. The sun rose slowly over the village, spreading warm light across the trees and huts. The woman woke to the sounds of the tribe starting their day. Children ran and played. Elders moved with purpose, and the boy was already busy helping with small tasks. She rose and prepared a simple meal with their guidance. The tribe watched her with respect, giving her space yet including her in their routines. She realized that her presence was appreciated and her actions had earned trust. The boy moved freely around the village, sometimes returning to her side to share a smile or show something new. She followed him as he introduced her two other children and elders. Everyone greeted her with gestures and smiles. The day passed with simple activities. Observing the tribe and learning their ways, she learned how they collected food, prepared water, and respected the forest. Each small lesson was a connection to their life and culture. The boy taught her how to perform tasks gently, showing patience and understanding. She felt pride and joy in seeing his confidence and happiness as the sun moved high. Elders approached her. They gestured for her to sit with them, and they shared words through gestures and translation from one of the younger members who spoke a few words she could understand. They expressed gratitude for her courage and kindness. She nodded humbly. Feeling the weight of their appreciation, the boy sat beside her. Holding her hand softly, the elders gave her small tokens, symbols of honor and trust. She realized that her act of saving the boy had created a bond beyond words and beyond culture. She spent the afternoon learning more about their daily life and customs. She helped where she could. Listening and watching carefully, the boy laughed freely, showing her that his fear had been replaced by trust and happiness. Tribe invited her to participate in small tasks that held meaning. She carried water, helped with food preparation, and observed ceremonies. Each moment deepened her understanding of their way of life. She learned the importance of community, respect, and care for each other. As evening came, the tribe gathered around a central fire. They shared food and stories, inviting her to listen and participate through gestures and simple explanations. The boy stayed close, pointing out small things to her, explaining in ways he could. She felt warmth in her heart, seeing him safe, happy, and surrounded by people who loved him. The night was quiet, and calm stars spread across the sky. Reflecting in the boy's eyes as he lay near her, she stayed awake a while, watching the fire. Thinking about the journey from the forest to the village, she reflected on fear, courage, and the bond they had created. Her actions had not only saved a life, but connected her to a new family and culture. Morning arrived again. The boy woke with energy and ran to greet others. She prepared a small meal and helped with tasks. The tribe continued to show respect, offering gestures and small items. She felt a sense of belonging she had not expected. The boy ran to her frequently, sharing news, gestures, and smiles they walked together through the village and nearby forest. The boy showed her landmarks and secret paths, teaching her the ways of his people. She realized how much she had learned in just a few days. The boy was thriving, and her heart felt full of evening came, and they gathered again around the fire. The boy spoke softly through gestures, showing gratitude. She nodded. Feeling the deep connection and understanding, the tribe invited her to share in a small ceremony. Honoring the life she had saved, she participated humbly. Following their guidance, the boy stayed near her side. Comforted by her presence, night fell, and she reflected on the journey from the forest, facing danger, to the tribe. Finding safety and belonging, she understood that one act of kindness could have far-reaching consequences. The boy's life had been changed, and her life had been touched in ways she could never have imagined. She looked at the boy sleeping peacefully and felt a sense of completion. Her courage, care, and presence had created a lasting impact. The tribe had welcomed her, shown gratitude, and shared their culture. The forest and village had tested them both, but it also connected them. She realized that kindness and bravery could echo far beyond the moment it was given. The stars above shone brightly. The fire flickered, and she stayed close to the boy. Watching over him together, they had survived, learned, and created a bond that would last a lifetime. The morning would come again, with new lessons, laughter, and moments of connection, but for now they rested, safe and together, knowing that courage and compassion had changed everything. The sun rose gently over the village, casting a soft glow across the huts and trees. The woman woke to the sounds of life stirring in the village. Boy was already moving. Collecting small items and laughing quietly, she stretched and prepared a simple meal with guidance. From the tribe, the elders watched her with calm approval, and the children ran past, greeting her with gestures and smiles. She felt a sense of belonging. The first since the journey began, the boy stayed close, showing her the paths and small areas where he liked to play. They walked together through the village and nearby forest. He pointed out landmarks, teaching her to observe the land, the patterns of animals, and the signs of water. She realized that she was learning not just survival, but the ways of the tribe, their respect for nature and each other. The morning passed with small tasks. She helped gather food, prepare water, and learn small details about the daily life of the tribe. The boy guided her gently, showing patience and teaching without words. The tribe observed quietly, offering help or stepping back, depending on the need. She felt the weight of responsibility lift, replaced by a sense of connection and understanding. By midday, they walked to a nearby clearing. The boy ran ahead, exploring with energy and joy. She followed slowly, appreciating the beauty and calm of the forest. The sunlight moved through the leaves, and the sound of birds filled the air. She felt peace she had not known in weeks. The boy returned to her, holding a small bundle of berries. He gestured for her to eat, and she accepted. Smiling, he laughed quietly when she tried to balance them in her hands. The tribe joined them, bringing food and water, all with gestures of care and welcome. She realized that trust had been built, that her presence was valued not just for the rescue, but for the time she spent learning and participating. Afternoon brought more lessons. She helped the boy carry small items, teaching him to lift and balance with care. They moved through shallow streams, climbed small hills, and observed animals and plants. The boy laughed when he discovered a small bird's nest. She pointed and whispered, teaching him to respect it without disturbing. He nodded, showing understanding. The elders watched, occasionally nodding or giving a gentle word through translation. They showed respect and approval for the care she took. The boy stayed close, occasionally showing her hidden paths or places he liked. She realized that the forest and village had become familiar. That fear had been replaced by understanding and joy as the sun began to lower. The tribe gathered near a large tree in the center of the village. They made gestures inviting her and the boy to sit. They shared food, water, and small gifts as a way of welcoming and honoring her. She accepted humbly. Feeling the deep significance behind each gesture, the boy smiled, happy to share his people and the safety of home with her. Night fell, and the forest grew calm. The stars shining brightly above the boy slept near her. Safe and peaceful, she stayed awake a while longer, reflecting on the journey, on fear and courage, and on the bond that had formed between them and the tribe. She realized that one act of kindness had created a ripple that changed not only the boy's life, but hers as well. Morning arrived with soft light, and the village moved into daily life again. The woman rose, ready to participate, to learn more, and to share in the care and love of the tribe. The boy ran ahead and returned often to show her discoveries. To share joy and laughter, she realized that survival was more than food and shelter. It was trust, connection, and understanding. The tribe continued to include her in their activities. She carried water, helped with small chores, and learned the rituals and customs. The boy guided her patiently, teaching her not just tasks but values and lessons of respect and care. The day passed quickly with small adventures and quiet learning. The sun lowered again and they returned to the central clearing. Boy played with other children. Laughing freely, the woman helped prepare a meal with the elders and shared stories and gestures. The tribe honored her presence, showing gratitude for her courage, patience, and kindness. Night came, and the boy slept. Close and secure, the woman stayed awake a while, looking at the stars, thinking about the journey from the forest to the village and the connection that had formed as she understood that courage and care had lasting impact. That one act of kindness could echo far beyond a single moment. Morning would come again, with new lessons, new laughter, and new experiences, but for now they rested together, safe, connected, and changed forever by the journey they had shared. The morning air was fresh and cool as the woman woke in the small village. The boy was already moving through the huts, laughing quietly and exploring. She stretched and prepared a simple meal with guidance from the elders. Children ran past, greeting her with gestures and smiles. She felt a sense of belonging that grew stronger with each passing day. The boy stayed close at times, showing her small paths and teaching her details of the forest. She learned how to notice animal tracks, recognize plants, and find clean water. The tribe observed her quietly, offering help when needed and allowing space when it was appropriate. By midday, they walked to a nearby stream. Boy ran ahead but returned to help her cross. Carefully, she realized how much he had grown, how strong and confident he had become. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and they rested while drinking and cleaning. The boy laughed softly at small fish swimming near his fingers. She smiled, feeling warmth and relief that he was safe and happy. After resting, they continued toward a hill that offered a clear view of the surrounding forest. She guided the boy slowly, encouraging him with soft words and gestures. He listened carefully and mimicked her movements. From the top, they could see wide stretches of land, rivers, and more trees. She pointed out landmarks to help him remember paths and directions. The boy nodded and pointed back, showing understanding. They spent time observing from the hilltop, learning the rhythm of the land, the movement of animals, and the signs of weather. The forest seemed alive with hidden life and secrets. The boy was curious and attentive, asking with gestures about birds, plants, and the paths below. She responded with gestures and simple words, teaching him patience and observation. As the sun moved toward noon, they descended slowly. The boy ran ahead at times, exploring safely, and returned to her side. Often they stopped for lunch near a shaded area where they shared simple food. The boy laughed when she tried to balance small fruits in her hands. She felt joy in these quiet moments, realizing that safety and learning were returning to his world. The afternoon brought more lessons. They walked along small paths, crossed shallow streams, and climbed gentle hills. The boy pointed to animal tracks, insects, and plants, teaching her what he had learned. She followed his guidance, learning the forest through his eyes. The tribe watched from a distance, allowing the boy and woman to explore. They occasionally offered gentle advice through gestures. She felt trust growing between them all, a bond that was unspoken but strong. As the sun lowered, they returned to the village. The boy ran to greet others, sharing laughter and joy. She helped prepare food with elders, learning small tasks and customs. They shared stories through gestures, passing knowledge and wisdom. Night fell, and the fire was lit in the central area. The boy sat near her. Showing gifts and items he had found during the day, she accepted them humbly. Appreciating the meaning behind each small token, the tribe gathered around. Sharing food and gestures of gratitude, she felt honored and included. Understanding that her actions had lasting impact, the boy played briefly with other children. Laughing freely and confidently, she watched. Feeling relief and pride, the night grew quiet and stars filled the sky. She stayed awake, reflecting on the journey from the forest to this safe place, on the growth of the boy, and the bond they had formed. She realized that courage and care had created something far beyond what she imagined. Morning came again, bringing new light in the continuation of daily life. The boy woke strong and eager. She helped prepare breakfast and participated in small village tasks. The tribe continued to show respect and inclusion. The boy guided her patiently, teaching her details of plants, water, and paths. She learned quickly, enjoying the rhythm of the day and the connection. By midday, they walked to a nearby forest path. Exploring and observing together, the boy pointed to hidden birds, small mammals, and plants. She marveled at his knowledge and confidence. They rested near a stream, drinking water and sharing small snacks. The boy laughed as he pointed out fish and insects. Teaching her careful observation, they returned to the village before the sun lowered. The boy ran to show discoveries to elders. Sharing excitement and joy, she helped with simple tasks and observed rituals and customs. The tribe welcomed her, showing gratitude for her courage, patience, and care. Night fell, and they gathered around the central fire. The boy sat near her, sharing stories and gestures of thanks. She nodded, understanding the deep meaning of connection, trust, and care. The stars above reflected in the boy's eyes as he lay near her. She stayed awake longer, reflecting on the journey and the bond that had formed between them and the tribe. She understood that one act of kindness could change lives forever, creating bonds that would last beyond words or time. Morning would come again, bringing new adventures, lessons, and joy, but for now, they rested together, safe, connected, and forever changed by the journey they had shared. At the morning came gently over the village, and the first light moved slowly across the trees and huts. The woman woke to the soft sounds of life, and the village children ran and laughed in the open spaces while elders moved with purpose. The boy was already awake, exploring the paths near the huts with energy and curiosity. She rose and prepared a simple meal with guidance from the elders. She felt calm and connected, a sense of belonging she had never known before. The boy returned to her side, frequently showing small things he had discovered. She followed him through the village and nearby forest. Observing and learning the ways of the tribe, he pointed two paths, animals and plants. Teaching her what he knew, she listened carefully, learning not just survival skills but the deeper ways of respect, patience, and care that the tribe lived by. The tribe watched quietly, offering help when needed and giving space when appropriate. The morning passed with small tasks. She helped gather food, prepare water, and observe customs. The boy guided her gently, showing her how to move through the forest carefully, how to notice the small signs that animals and water left behind. By midday, they walked to a stream where the water flowed clear and fresh. The boy ran ahead, then returned to help her cross. Carefully, she marveled at how strong and wise as confident he had become. They rested by the stream, drinking water and observing fish swimming among the stones. The boy laughed quietly, showing joy and curiosity. She felt relief and happiness knowing he was safe, strong, and learning again. After the break, they continued their journey through the forest paths, climbed gentle hills, and explored shaded valleys. The boy pointed to animal tracks, small insects, and unusual plants, teaching her observation skills and patience. She responded with gestures and soft words, explaining what she saw and felt. The tribe observed from a distance, nodding and showing approval for the care she took with the boy in the forest. As the sun lowered, they returned to the village. The boy ran to greet others and shared his discoveries. She helped with preparing a simple meal, learning small tasks, and observing rituals. The tribe welcomed her with gestures of respect and gratitude. They offered small gifts and tokens of honor. Symbols of trust and appreciation, she accepted them humbly. Understanding the depth of meaning behind each one, evening came, and the fire was lit in the central area. The boy sat near her, showing small discoveries and sharing gestures of thanks. She nodded. Feeling the bond that had formed between them and the tribe, the stars appeared above. Reflecting in the boy's eyes as he lay near Hirsch, stayed awake a while longer. Reflecting on the journey from the forest to this safe place, on the boy's growth and the connection that had formed. The next morning she woke to soft sunlight and the sounds of life in the village. The boy ran to her side quickly. Showing excitement for the new day, they walked together through the village and nearby forest, observing paths, animals, and plants. She learned more about the boy's knowledge and the tribe's ways. By midday they climbed to a ridge with a view of the surrounding forest. The boy pointed to landmarks and the paths they might take. Teaching her observation and patience, they rested and watched the land. Noticing birds, animals, and signs of water, she felt a deep connection to the forest. The boy and the tribe. Afternoon came, and they descended slowly. Walking carefully through the forest, they crossed shallow streams, climbed small hills, and observed small details of the environment. The boy laughed when he discovered a small bird's nest. She pointed and showed care in observing. Without disturbing, the tribe watched quietly from a distance. Nodding and offering gentle guidance when needed, the boy stayed close to her, guiding her through familiar paths and teaching her the ways of his people. Evening arrived and they returned to the village. Boy played with other children. Laughing and sharing joy, she helped elders with small tasks. Learning about customs and rituals, the tribe welcomed her presence and honored her courage. Care and patience. Night came, and they gathered around the fire. The boy sat near her. Sharing gestures of thanks and small discoveries, she nodded. Feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and connection, the stars shone above and the fire flickered, illuminating the faces of the tribe and the boy. She stayed awake, reflecting on the journey, the growth of the boy, and the bond that had formed. The next day, the sun rose over the village, casting warm light on the forest and Hutsa. Boy ran to her side immediately. Showing excitement for exploration, they walked together, observing paths, animals, plants, and signs of water. She learned from the boy and the tribe, understanding their deep respect for life, nature, and each other. By midday, they reached a clearing where sunlight filtered through the trees. Boy explored and returned often to guide her. They rested, drank water, and observed the forest. She marveled at the boy's knowledge and confidence. They continued through the forest, learning and observing, discovering new paths, hidden streams, and signs of animals. The tribe watched from a distance, nodding in approval and giving space for the woman and boy to learn. Evening came and they returned to the village. The boy ran ahead to share discoveries with others. She helped prepare a meal, participated in small rituals, and observed customs. The tribe honored her presence, offering gestures, small gifts, and symbols of respect. She accepted humbly. Understanding their gratitude and trust, night fell, and the boy lay near her. Safe and peaceful, she stayed awake, reflecting on the journey, the growth of the boy, and the bonds formed with the tribe. Stars covered the sky, and the fire burned softly. The forest was calm, filled with sounds of small animals, wind, and water. The next day began with the sun rising softly over the village. The boy ran to her side. Eager to explore and learn, they walked through the forest paths, observing animals, plants, and streams. She learned from the boy, following his guidance and understanding the rhythms of the land. By midday, they climbed a small hill to observe the surrounding forests. The boy pointed out landmarks, animal tracks, and signs of water. They rested, drank water, and shared simple food. The boy laughed as he showed small discoveries. She felt joy, relief, and pride in his growth and safety. The afternoon passed with exploration, learning, and observation. They crossed shallow streams, observed animals, and climbed gentle hills. The tribe watched quietly, nodding in approval and offering gentle guidance. Eve now came, and they returned to the village. The boy played with other children, laughing and sharing joy. She helped prepare a meal and learned more about customs, rituals, and ways of the tribe honored her. Offering symbols of trust, respect, and gratitude, she accepted humbly. Feeling a deep connection, night fell, and they gathered around the central fire. The boy lay near her. Safe and peaceful, she stayed awake. Reflecting on the journey, the boy's growth, and the bonds that had formed, the stars shone brightly, and the forest was calm. Filled with gentle sounds, she understood that one act of kindness had created ripples that changed lives. Forming bonds that would last forever, morning arrived in the cycle of exploration. Learning and connection continued. Each day brought new lessons. Laughter and moments of care, the boy thrived and taught her the ways of his world. The tribe welcomed her, honored her, and shared their culture. She felt belonging, connection, and peace. Knowing that courage and care had created lasting impact, they rested together each night, safe, connected, and changed foe.